Now that the Broncos schedule is officially out, I'm sure you're wondering to yourself, what is going to be the Broncos record heading into the 2025 season? Well, on today's Broncos Breakdown episode, that is exactly what we are getting into. My name is Moose. Welcome into the channel. And on today's episode, like I said, you know exactly what we're getting into, the Broncos predictions. I'm going to give you my full predictions on each matchup in the 2025 season. Let's just take a look briefly at the entirety of the schedule before we get into each individual matchup. Starting, of course, with weeks 1 through 4 against the Titans at home, followed by the Colts, the Chargers, and the Bengals. Weeks 5 through 8 gets a little bit tougher. Not going to lie, that game against the Eagles has a little bit of concern for me. But then we go across the pond to the Jets, and then we have some NFC East NFC East matchups against the Giants and the Cowboys. Flipping it over to week number 9, the Texans, Raiders, Chiefs, and Commanders. This, in my opinion, is probably the toughest 4-game stretch on the schedule. If you can go 3-1 in this stretch, you are looking really, really good down the home stretch of the 2025 season. And this is how we wrap everything up. Raiders, Packers, Jaguars, Chiefs, and Chargers. Obviously, the 2 divisional games at the very end, not my cup of tea. Throwing back to the London one right there. But it is going to be great and must-watch television at the very end of the season. Now, before we get into any of that, here's what I want you to do. Predict the Broncos 2025 record. I'm going to save my opinion for kind of the end of the video, but let me know in the comment section down below. That's going to be the pinned comment of today's video. All right, weeks 1 through 4. Starting off with the Tennessee Titans. Cam Ward decides to come in to Mile High with the elevation changes. He comes in not having played a single NFL snap, going up against Bo Nix and Sean Payton in year 2. Good luck. Give me the Broncos on this one. It is an easy W at Mile High. And I think we drastically underestimate that elevation change. It gets so much harder to breathe when you're up in that elevation. So I think coming in, all those ruckus Broncos fans, Cam Ward is going to have one tough time getting a W out at Mile High. So that leads us to week 2, where we travel to Indianapolis. And again, I think with the confusion at quarterback right now for the Indianapolis Colts, I think this is an easy W for the Denver Broncos. Is it going to be Daniel Jones? Is it going to be Anthony Richardson? It doesn't really matter which combination of the two you get. You might see both of them on the field at the same time. We know that Anthony Richardson can play that kind of power quarterback running style. Neither of them are prolific passers, and I think Shane Steichen is up to his wits' end with those two guys, or at least with Anthony Richardson. So give me the Broncos starting off 2-0. Then you've got your first divisional matchup against the Chargers in L.A. Now, I went back and forth on this one. I didn't necessarily think that this was the Broncos' toughest matchup, but I also know that anything can happen in these divisional games. So if I'm going back to kind of what I saw last year and how Harbaugh loves to play power football, I think the Chargers actually squeak this one out. I think they take the early W against the Broncos. That's, again, it'll be a closer game, probably a little bit lower scoring, but I think with the additions that the Chargers made, on not only to their running game, which they got Najee Harris in free agency and drafted Omarion Hampton, plus with the power lines that they have with Jim Harbaugh's system, I think it's going to be a little bit too much for the Broncos to overcome in week 3. Then week 4 against the Bengals. Now, Joe Burrow had video game-like numbers last year. However, the Bengals defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. So earlier on in the season, I think you also see the Bengals have a tough time getting their act together. They always start off a lot slower. So at Empower Field at Mile High, give me the Broncos to win and start off 3-0. It'll be a high-scoring game, a lot of fireworks to go to, but if you were to ask me who comes out victorious at the very end of that Week 4 matchup, it'll be the Broncos. All right, then you've got Week 5 against the Eagles. This is tough. Defending Super Bowl champions, probably the most loaded roster in the entirety of the NFL. I don't see a world in which the Broncos squeak out with a win. They might play him tough in the first half, but I think Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith plus that defense that just got after Mahomes in last year's Super Bowl, I think it's a little bit too tough. I think the Eagles squeak out a win in Week 5, and the Broncos drop down to 3-2. Then we go across the lake, Governor, over to the Tottenham Stadium in England, where we take on the Jets. Now, on paper, the Broncos are far better of a team than the New York Jets. However, anything can happen in those international games. Jet lag becomes a real issue. You never know whether or not, your team is going to get ready to play. Are they more sluggish? But if we're just going off of the paper and just going off of who's got the better roster, it's clearly Denver. So I'm going to take Denver to win in England to improve to 4-2. Then we start our NFC East matchups. Against the Giants, I feel like this is an easy win. Obviously, the Giants had a really good 2025 draft. There's no doubt about it, but they're still a long way away from becoming a good football team in 2025. Denver, far superior. Give me the W. Then the Cowboys. Now, you'll notice here, I said the Cowboys win this one. Every single season, for every single NFL team, there's always one matchup where you're supposed to win and your team just doesn't show up. For me, that's this Week 8 matchup right here. I think the Broncos on paper are far better. I think I would rather have the combination of Bo Nix and Sean Payton rather than Dak Prescott and Brian Schottenheimer. But I feel like this will be the one game that the Broncos just let slip away. So I have them falling down to 5-3 after Week 8. And this feels like the perfect time to ask you this question. Who is going to lead the Broncos in touchdowns this season? I want you to take Bo Nix out of this. He's the quarterback. Obviously, he's going to end up having the most. So let's go skill position players. Which Bronco will have the most touchdowns this season? If you had to put my money on it, I would say it's going to be Courtland Sutton. But let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Then you start the gauntlet of the 2025 schedule. The Texans, the Raiders, the Chiefs. You get that bye week in there, which is really nice in Week 12. But then the Commanders on Sunday Night Football. Now let's start off with the Texans. This is probably the most even heavyweight matchup that you've got on your schedule. Both of these teams last year went 10-7. Both have really good young quarterbacks and really good head coaches. I feel like I have to give the Broncos the slight nod in this one simply because the defense and the offensive line. We have no idea what that Texans offensive line is going to look like. And with how good the Broncos were last year at getting to the quarterback, led the league in sacks with 63, I feel like the Broncos come out victorious down in Houston to improve to 6-3. Then, another divisional game here. Took a while to get back to it. We have the Raiders, and this is at home on Thursday Night Football. So, at home against the Raiders, who, I'll give you this, they got the trains back on the track with Geno Smith. They drafted Ashton Genty, who the Broncos apparently wanted during the NFL draft, made some calls to trade up. I still think we have the better roster. So give me the Broncos to win and improve to 7-3. It's a really good start right now so far. You'll notice another thing, another back-to-back divisional game. The Kansas City Chiefs come to town. And this is where I actually have the Broncos winning. If you remember last year, they lost on a last-second blocked field goal. And the Chiefs, I hate to be this guy, but last year always had the refs on their side. I know that sounds like a conspiracy theorist. I know that sounds like a guy, random YouTube guy complaining that the Chiefs and the refs have each other in their pockets, but it felt like every single game they were getting away with highway robbery. But I think the Broncos squeak it out to improve to 8-3. Now that we're at the bye week, we could take a breather. It feels good, doesn't it? So let me ask you this question. What will the Broncos record be on the bye week? I said 8-3, but if you disagree with me, let me know and defend your reason down in the comment section below. 8-3 at the bye, I would take that any day and twice on Sunday. Now it gets a little bit tougher. Now we go against the Commanders. I'm not going to lie to you. This is a tough one, and I think they lose, especially at home. Jaden Daniels proved last year that he has got what it takes to lead that team to a Super Bowl. I think they added so many great pieces, including Deebo Samuel in free agency. I have a tough time seeing the Broncos winning this one. So give me the Commanders to win, and Broncos fall to 8-4. Then, Week 14 comes along, and you have got the Las Vegas Raiders once again. And right after we talk about this Raiders matchup, we're going to tell you all about what we can expect from our friends at Fanatics and the great products that they have on sale right now. So, Before we get into that, let's talk about the Raiders matchup here for a second. I don't necessarily know that the Raiders can beat the Broncos once this year. I feel like with the additions that the Broncos have made to their defense and the expectation that all of the skill players with the addition of R.J. Harvey are going to get better, I think it's a clean sweep of the Raiders this year. 9-4 feels like a very, very good spot going into Week 15. So I'll take the Broncos to win on the road in Vegas. And speaking of the Broncos, if you want to gear up for the 2025 season, here's what you have to do. You got to start shopping with our friends over at Fanatics. I personally have bought so much gear already from Fanatics, and I'm going to keep adding it to my collection. Right now, that t-shirt that you just saw on screen is 25% off. Was originally $39.99 and is now $29.99. So you're getting $10 off. It's a sweet deal, but you can get deals on not only t-shirts, you can get them on jerseys, you can get them on jerseys, hats, gloves, anything that you want that is Broncos related. Use this link that I've got right here in the comments and description of today's video and start shopping with Fanatics today. Green Bay comes to Mile High. Now, again, this is one of those that could go either way. The Packers, I feel like, are the tale of two teams. When they're on, they're great. When they're off, they look horrible. And last year, they ended the season badly. I'm going to say the Broncos win this one as well, although I think that's one of the closest matchups of the entire year. That game could go into overtime. But I'll take the Broncos to win to improve to 10-4. Okay, Jaguars, Week 16. Easy W. This should be one of the most cakewalk wins on your entire schedule. The Jaguars suck. The only player on their team that is worth a damn is Trevor Lawrence, and even he's not worth that much. Certainly not the $55 million that he's making per year, but that's a conversation for another day. I don't want to talk about that quarterback anymore. I want to talk about our quarterback, and that's Bo Nix. And will he be an MVP candidate this season? I said in a previous video earlier this week that it was possible that he could be a dark horse candidate for MVP. I don't think he wins it this year, but I think he could absolutely finish within the top 5. So give me a Y for yes or an N for no down in the description, or the comments of today's video. Last 2 games, wrapping it up. Okay, so you have to lose one to the Chiefs. It might as well be on Christmas in Kansas City. Again, Kansas City is trying to stake their claim as the NFL's premier Christmas team. I feel like you're going to have a lot of eyeballs on you during that game. It's going to be on Thursday Night Football, Amazon Prime, covering that exclusively. I think you have to lose one to them. You'll probably lose it at the very end. But don't fret, because we end the season on a win. Week 18 against the Chargers. You didn't think I was going to have the Broncos getting swept by the Chargers, did you? Come on now, especially what we saw Justin Herbert do in that playoff game against the Texans last year, where he dropped that horrible 4-interception performance. So I'll take the Broncos to finish off the year at 12-5. That's my unofficial prediction. Obviously, there's a lot, to go on still. You have OTAs to go for, and then you have to worry about injuries and preseason. So the way too early prediction, 12-5. And last but not least, if you hate the Kansas City Chiefs, and I know you do, make sure you hit that sub button for us. We will not tolerate any single Chiefs fan on this channel. So if you're a diehard that has not subscribed and you want to subscribe for any other reason other than you just hate the Chiefs, do me a favor, hit that big red sub button. It's completely free. My name is Moose. Until next time, be cool.